Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the tantalizing and scintillating Comic Vault. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today Eric chose the comic series that we're going to be talking about today, or I guess 6 issues out of Detective, and this is kind of a sort of a complete story on its own, but obviously...
Well, and there's 2 issues missing in this that I reread for this, but I don't think you did.
Okay, like just before this. Yeah, and it talks about the phosphorus thing a lot.
Walt Simonson.
Okay.
It's still Steve Englehart
writing.
Does it feel
okay? Does it feel like more of a complete story when you put those 2 things in front of it?
I mean,
like,
you get the
is
introduction
it setting up
of
much...
Thorn and Silver St. Cloud.
Yeah, okay. So I guess...
But the phosphorus stuff isn't great.
Kind of plays more as a prologue.
Yeah.
I wonder why they... well, I guess that's not here just because this is a Marshall Rogers book. And it's funny because... So, today we're going to be doing the Laughing Fish story and the 4 issues before that, dealing with Hugo Strange and Rupert Thorne
Which don't officially have a title. A lot of people refer to the whole thing as Laughing Fish. He was collected in trade as Strange Apparitions.
Mm-hmm.
And... Steve Englehart refers to as Dark Detective 1.
And from almost the beginning of at least the section we read, the Joker is kind of lurking in the background. So, like, you know he's going to come up at some point, and there's a lot of teasing us with things to come to try to make sure that we read the next issue.
Yeah, it wants
to
feel like a complete piece.
Yeah.
So we set up
or at the very least, it's just really good business.
Yeah.
You know, where he's looking forward, and he's got forethought, and he knows where he's going, and he can seed things so that eventually he can pay that off, or he can get you to buy 3 issues you wouldn't have otherwise read until you finally get to that Joker story.
Which was kind of a coup, because at this point DC's not doing a lot of that, but that's how Marvel does everything.
Yeah.
So Steve Englehart goes from Marvel to DC.
Interesting.
And writes this, and it was kind of like in the Marvel style.
And fascinating that he worked with Simonson first, because that's very Simonson with Thor.
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't know if this predates his Thor. I think it's right around that.
It does predate us, because I want to say his Thor is early 80s. This is
like 77, 78.
Think,
yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. So anyway, why don't we before we get into this, why'd you pick this?
I was in a Batman mood, and I didn't think you'd read this stuff, and it felt like you know, we always talk about like the real like classic Batman, and so.
Yeah, so I had only read the Laughing Fish stuff, and I think I had read both issues of that, and not too terribly long ago, but I had never read the rest of it, and certainly didn't really appreciate the Silver St. Cloud stuff in that last issue without it, and the Rupert Thorne interlude stuff until he finally kind of captures himself or turns himself in at the end.
It never really intersects with the Batman story.
No, it doesn't. It's weird. He's just Hugo Strange. I mean, you can make a read on Batman's influence in making that happen, certainly, because of the way he influences Hugo Strange, which in turn puts Rupert Thorne into this headspace, and I don't know, it's hilarious, really. It's the ghost of Hugo Strange. It keeps saying he's gonna come back and get Rupert Thorne, and by the end, Thorne just turns himself in because the ghost of Strange in his head drives him insane, and it's kind of the best. But anyway, like I said, I hadn't read the rest of this before, and so I'm glad that I finally got the rest of the context for that. But this really takes me back, like to my childhood, real hard, because this is the Batman that in the late '80s, early '90s, right around '89, was on all the merchandise.
Yeah,
it was this Batman,
absolutely.
And this Joker certainly.
And this run is really important. There's a lot of the animated series that draws from this.
Right.
We would not have Hugo Strange or Deadshot.
Hugo Strange gets resurrected from eons before this.
And Deadshot as well. Deadshot.
What was it, Detective like 49 or something?
Yeah, it's something
really,
like that.
Really
it's
early?
Really
and
early.
were both of them around the same time?
I think Deadshot's in the 50s, but Deadshot also
But we're talking 10 or 15 issues away from each other.
He's a one-appearance character. This is where he gets his costume. Everything
and his arm guns.
Everything with Deadshot comes from this.
I honestly had forgotten or didn't know that Deadshot was a Batman character first.
Well, what's
and
interesting,
that he was a Batman villain first.
What's interesting is when Englehart went over to DC, DC did full scripts and Marvel didn't. So he did full script this, and he writes 7 issues. And this is how concerned they were with continuity. After the Penguin issue, the next month would be the Laughing Fish. But in Batman, they were doing a Joker story that month, and they didn't want 2 Joker stories the same month, so he had to quickly write an issue that takes place in between the issues. And so Deadshot just kind of randomly happened. It wasn't even part of the initial plan of the book.
That's hilarious. And then look at how big of a deal he is now.
Yep. Yep.
So like if it weren't for that, you wouldn't have Suicide Squad
you
the way
wouldn't
we
have
have
Suicide
it,
Squad in
or
the
maybe
80s.
not at all.
Well, I mean, you probably still have the book Suicide Squad, but you wouldn't have Deadshot as the breakout character and all that. And,
That's really interesting, and of course, he's a totally different person here. I mean, he's
see the
really
seeds of what he's going to become.
Yeah, but he's kind of just your typical revengey kind of villain. You know. Oh, Batman foiled my plot, and I just got out of prison, so I'm gonna go get him. That's.
I do think the middle 2 issues are the weakest 2 of the 6.
Absolutely, sure. Honestly, I think the issue I found dullest and was a little bit of a trudge to get through was the Penguin issue until the end of it, and then I thought and we talked about this earlier, and you said that it reads like kind of a '60s Batman episode, except without the
It's
so much
weird
of the humor.
how traditional classic superhero Batman it is when the rest of the book isn't really that.
Yeah, but I don't want to jump around too much, but I'll put a pin in this point. I also wanted to say that with that and quite a few other things, it's really interesting all of the different Batman tones from different eras that we are lumping together all in this. Like I can't decide if it's because in especially the Laughing Fish story, I mean, we've landed on one. I know clearly what this is, and it's it's pretty foreboding, and it's got a lot of atmosphere, and there's quite a bit of that all the way through it. But then occasionally we'll stop, and it's kind of '60s Batman, or it's kind of
he's wrestling with Robin like it's the '50s.
Yeah, and so I don't know if this era is just having a hard time landing on what exactly Batman is, but I don't think it's. But it feels more like just it's got a lot of variety of different kinds of stories it can tell right then. Like it doesn't feel inconsistent to me.
Well, and given that we pull in Hugo Strange and Deadshot from like really old issues, you could get the impression that Englehart probably went back and read a lot of Batman.
And so that's influencing how he's writing it, or he's doing that on purpose. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
And maybe his whole plan was to try to infuse a lot of different takes on Batman into one, because it reads. I mean, this is the late '70s, but like there's something there's something really unique and fresh about it.
Yeah, no,
that sounds like a weird thing to say 40 years later, but you know what I mean.
It feels iconic.
Yeah,
it feels like classic Batman.
But like after a couple of very specific takes on Batman, and I'm not saying that we haven't done different things in the comics since then, but there's a lot of. We talk all the time about like people looking at a thing and saying this is my Batman or this is not my Batman. This feels like a bunch of different people's Batman to me. And weirdly, that almost makes it feel kind of fresh again, because you can read your Batman in it. And I feel like to connect this to what's going now, I feel like Tom King is trying to attempt something similar.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a far more melodramatic Batman than we tend to get.
Sure, and I don't mean that this tonally is really like Tom King's Batman. I just mean that that he's bringing in a lot of different people's Batman in order to make his, I think. But anyway, so I was making some kind of point when I ran off with myself, and I don't remember what
blending
what
styles
exactly
and
we were
tones and
yeah, I got to that from some other thing. Maybe it'll come up again. Maybe I'll figure it out.
Penguin issue.
Oh yeah. So with the Penguin issue. I thought that for that kind of a detective story, the conclusion was kind of clever.
Yeah, the only issue I really have with it is that he does like the riddles thing, where like he gives clues.
He feels like a totally different character, sort of. Where they keep talking about how he's all about playing games, and I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, but I'm not super familiar with Penguin from this era, so maybe that's what he was. It does take us a while to land on, like, Mob Boss Penguin. Like, that's not really a thing until the late 80s, early 90s. We don't decide that, and that's kind of what he's been ever since. Maybe
the idea is supposed to be if he is constantly trying to play games, that's because he's a cagey bird. And maybe that's the thing.
Maybe.
I'm trying to figure out what about his motif leads us to
he's the chicken who can play checkers.
Trickster. Oh, okay. But yeah, so I really like that moment in that where Robin thinks he's got it all figured out, and he goes right, and Batman goes wrong. That was pretty great. If you haven't read this or you haven't read this in a while, what we're talking about is a series of clues that has a bunch of words that have to do with aviation, and that's what leads them to it's an airplane that he's trying to heist, and they think that he's going after. I mean, this is the most 60s Batman thing of it, right? Is just, there's some bird trinket at a museum or something, and
Batman scolds the guy for putting it on display. He's like, you know the penguin's out and about, why would you do this? Why would you put a diamond penguin out?
You're wasting my time! Hugo Strange is still out there somewhere. Does Batman ever know that Hugo Strange has been killed?
He kind of sees his ghost in one scene.
I don't know what that was about.
Which is the
I don't
one
know what that was
thing
about.
that suggests that it's not
supernatural.
all in Rupert Thorne's head.
Right.
Really...
I'd forgotten about that. And as I was talking about that, I was sitting here trying to decide, is it a ghost? Is it not a ghost? Oh. Do they do anything with that moving forward?
I've never read this stuff after this.
We'll have to,
I wouldn't think so, because Englehart leaves.
Weird.
He only does the 8 issues. And
okay.
Decades later.
Well, then I'll go on record to say I probably don't like that, then.
I don't like it either.
But you get to the end, and Penguin's got this great bit at the end of that story. Penguin's got this great bit where he goes, no, I wasn't after that bird trinket. I already stole it.
Well, this collection, because this collects all of
that was pretty funny.
This is, I take the covers off my books. This is Legends of Dark Knight, Marshall Rogers. This collects all of Marshall Rogers' work on Batman. It actually collects the next 2 issues. So you could read the next 2 issues.
I guess I could have read those.
Those are written by Len Wein.
Clayface stuff.
Clayface 3.
Ah, yeah, the search for Spock.
Yeah.
But I was, so I gotta say this, I was reading through this, and I was an idiot and didn't go check, and I guess it was kind of fun having the mystery until I read all 6 issues and then looked at it. I did not know what the significance was to all the things collected in this book. Because I read this thing...
Wait, until just now when I said it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Until I finished it, and then I looked at it, and I was like, okay. And what led me to it was, I thought the Jokerfish story was drawn by somebody else. His art changes dramatically then, and you see the versatility in it. Like just how much range he's got, because he's not doing. I mean, once you know, you can see the similarities. Okay, yeah, it's the same guy. It's a similar art style, but he's doing something else with that.
Well, and his art changes dramatically. We're not really going to talk about it because I didn't read it, and you did. The first issue, which is this calculator story.
But that's weird because...
But it changes so drastically just when you get to the Rupert Thorne stuff.
I assumed that must have been way earlier, and it's not.
Is it not? Is it just like a couple issues earlier?
The earliest date that we're given in the... Because one thing I don't care for about this
no covers.
Collection is they don't give you covers, and this is just a pet peeve of mine, but when you get a table of contents like this, I want dates on the table of contents.
Oh, sure.
You know, that would be really nice. The only way you can have any sense of it is to look at the publication information here, and the earliest date we're given is 77, and then it goes to 78. So it's 468 and then 471. So I have to assume that first issue...
months apart.
Yeah, and it's like a different era of Batman.
Yep,
it's nuts.
Changes.
It's a Super Friends story. It's not quite going that far, but Batman's characterized very differently.
He's all about action.
The way it's great. It's great.
But we're not here to talk about that issue.
I know, but I kind of want to. And Calculator has this thing on his head that makes whatever he types into it, and then he gets like a crane at one point, and whenever he makes things from his head, it says whatever it is across his head, like it's like a commuter bus or something. It's like. It's like crane, and then it's great. Anyway,
besides Steve Englehart,
he thinks Batman can't beat him because he can make anything come out of his hat.
But the Englehart Rogers stuff.
Okay, I guess we can talk about that stuff if we really have to. Yeah. So where do you want to go now?
Well, you want to start in the beginning with Hugo Strange?
Let's do that.
So this is Hugo Strange's return since I think. Only Batman's second or third year, in publication.
Yeah.
He hadn't been around since then. Obviously hugely important, hugely influential on this character.
Sort of like what happened with the Riddler, except with a lot more space in between.
Yeah. Where it's been a long time since I read that early Hugo Strange stuff, but he's just kind of like a mad scientist. And here we get the criminal mastermind psychoanalyst guy, which is what he'll be from then on. I think his design's the same. I don't think we changed that at all. I think he always had the glasses and the beard, but
it's a real distinct look. You wouldn't want to mess with it.
he has an interesting philosophy, and it seems to kind of evolve over the course of the 2 issues with Batman. Where like he discovers Batman's identity, which that's an issue of that's an episode of the animated series.
It is.
I don't know if Joker and Rupert Thorne and Penguin are there, but I remember distinctly that he.
No, 3 of the 6 issues of this are episodes of that show. I mean, Laughing Fish is 2 issues, but
well, and the ending's different.
Well, sure, I know, but I'm just saying that like that like it directly influenced, and they made an adaptation episode of that. So much of Laughing Fish is just like directly lifted as far as dialogue and stuff. Like he's got the Colonel Sanders line.
Yeah,
all of that is there.
But it's weird because because the ending's changed. The ending is from Joker's Fight by Revenge. It's got the shark.
Right.
I don't know why they were.
They were just
I think
mixing
this
things
fine.
together.
Although I guess him getting struck by lightning out of nowhere is maybe too violent for a kid's show. I don't know.
You still could have done it differently, though. All you got to do is drop him off a pier and you're done, or drop him off the scaffolding or whatever it is, and you're done.
But so I think Hugo Strange is.
Maybe they thought it was too typical of an ending, or maybe they thought it was too much like endings they had done already with him.
That's possible.
But I forget what exactly. There were only a couple episodes of him before that, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry.
But so Hugo Strange has this amazing plan where he's got this fake hospital that rich people go.
It's a great plot.
And I want to say that's also an episode of the animated series, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, it's not him that does it. You know what else?
Is it the Mad Hatter? No. It's the weird cult.
No. Yeah, it's the Poison Ivy cult.
Is it the Poison? I thought there was another one with the Nostradamus guy.
Oh yeah, Nostradamus. Yeah, and then before that, I think it's before that, you have the Renew You people.
Yeah, and then there's the little.
They go to this a lot.
Minutemen guy. They're not the Minutemen. The little guys that the Mad Hatter does. They're like take all your bad dreams or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I think that's like that. A lot of the rich people in Gotham get manipulated.
They get
a lot.
scammed a lot.
Yeah. But so Hugo Strange has these people come to his hospital. Seems to immediately inject them with monster serum, and there's like, I have an antidote, and if you don't take this, you'll turn into a monster.
I didn't know Hugo Strange had a whole motif with turning people into monsters.
Oh, you know the Monster Man's whole thing?
So when we got to Monster Men, I didn't know that came from a place.
Oh, yeah.
So I was glad I read this because of that. Because when I think of Hugo Strange, I think guy who gets so in Batman's head, he wants to be Batman. That's that's the thing I think of. This does both.
Yeah. No, the Monster Man thing goes back over.
He's got a lot. Englehart has lots to say with Hugo Strange.
I think sometimes we strip the Monster Man thing away, but that is a thing with him. But yeah, he injects people, makes them into monsters.
It's not in Arkham City, really.
Yeah, and it's not really in the animated series. I don't think he does the Monster Man thing.
But you could argue that he's already pulled a bunch of monsters into Arkham City, so he doesn't need to make new monsters.
That's true. But he does do the. I think it's Matt Wagner does 2 miniseries that are adaptations of early Batman stories, and one of them is the Monster Man. It's got Hugo Strange. It's been a while since I read those, but
yeah.
But so anyways, so he's got a real interesting take on Hugo Strange, and that he sees Batman as like an equal. And he even has a line where he says something. He's like, "I'm not going to fall into the trap that everybody else does." We're like, "I'm going to kill you." Like there's make no mistake about that. You're going to die.
But I'm worthy of killing you.
Yeah, and I feel like
Rupert Thorne's not.
I feel like there's a. It's
Although
not.
That's the ghost talking, but it might actually be his ghost. So.
Yeah, it's not. Like you've seen that villain idea before, but I think it's done interestingly.
Yeah,
I think it's done.
Well, I like the distinction between it and the Joker because they're both there and they both talk about it.
Yeah, neither of them.
He lays that on a little bit thick, where he's got that part where somebody's like, "Oh yeah, just like Doctor Strange."
Yeah. Well, and Joker
or Professor
doesn't want Batman to die.
Right. Right, but he sees him as an equal, and they like Englehart intentionally throws that parallel in dialogue right on the page.
Well, but I mean that's interesting. Hugo Strange is like, it's kind of a bummer that I have to kill you, but I'm not an idiot. I'm going to kill you. Where Joker's like, well, yeah, but if Batman died, it would be so less interesting. I'd just be chasing cops.
Yeah, but the difference is Joker wants to be Batman's opposite, and Hugo Strange wants to be Batman.
Yeah, and he puts on the Batman costume.
And then that creates this really interesting psychology which, and I don't know if Englehart did this on purpose in the fact that my mind is going to this and comparing them, but when Bruce Wayne is talking, there's a part where he's kind of lamenting about Silver St. Cloud and whether or not she knows that he's Batman, and he talks about, and this now would be really unusual because he doesn't think of himself as Bruce Wayne or Batman. There's like a third person. There's like this third layer,
which is how I tend to view Batman.
Yeah, and he says there are these layers, and again, I feel like Tom King kind of goes to that place too. But he's like, there's these layers, or there's these two masks, and if you pull those away, there's this other person that hardly anyone ever gets to see. And it's kind of interesting that 2 issues before that, Hugo Strange is
literally
a third person. Yeah, underneath
he pulls
2
off
masks.
the Batman mask, and then he pulls off a Bruce Wayne mask,
and there's
Hugo
this
Strange.
other person. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right.
I just came up with that in the moment, but it's clearly there. I think that's interesting.
But yeah, he's got this real interesting, like, kind of take on Batman, and it's him and Joker are parallels, which is why that middle bit is weird. Specifically, if it was just Penguin, like, what is Penguin doing there? Like, he had to fill in with the Deadshot story. What was that doing there?
I think the answer is well, it's a couple things. It's selling as many comics as you can sell. You know what I mean? Because like he could have truncated his story into 2 or 3 issues. But I also think it's probably just he's got so much soap opera stuff to work through.
That's true. That's
so
true.
You need a villain plot in the background because this has that early like Stan Lee, Spider-Man, and Stan Lee Marvel in general thing of being really concerned that every issue has to have enough action in it. You know, it's not like these days we don't really concern ourselves with that as much. I mean, I think there is some of that, but I think for the most part, if you're telling, because you always talk about, you know, we like to do the 6-issue arcs a lot. Sometimes even just 4, but we like to do the 6-issue arc, the 6-issue miniseries. They're each a chapter of a greater whole. We're really used to that by now. A lot of people read in trade instead of buying singles. So if you have an issue that's mostly talky, it's not a big deal because that's part of a larger story. Yeah.
Whereas here, with the Penguin issue, you could almost cut the Penguin stuff entirely and just have the Silver St. Cloud stuff and the Boss Thorne stuff.
And each issue, with maybe the exception of the Laughing Fish issues, which really does feel like one complete story. What I mean is, it feels like it has a cliffhanger, and then it keeps going. But each of those, even if there are things we haven't paid off yet, with especially the soap opera stuff, you can pick up an issue and just read it.
Yeah. You know, I love when Bruce gets drugged in Hugo Strange's place, and he there's that page of all the like stuff that just says nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, how is that not a poster that we've been?
Yeah, I don't know.
Selling in the.
I do not know.
You know, we keep printing like famous covers and putting them in Hobby Lobby and stuff. Where's that?
Yeah, I agree.
No, I love that. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I didn't realize I liked Rogers this much, but I mean, he's great. He's not an artist I think of. Like, oh yeah, that's that guy. This goes without saying because like it's so iconic and it's so well remembered. And you know, some of the reasons you would want to make that into a cartoon episode is because of just all the distinct imagery that's interesting to animate before even the story, right? So this kind of goes without saying, but man, so much of that is just super breathtaking.
I love his introduction to the Joker.
His cityscapes are amazing.
Yeah, I love the introduction of the Joker where he's taking his hat off and there's a ha that folds around him.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
And that's a super famous.
And he does a lot of fun stuff with sound effects.
Remember we saw that on a mug a couple months ago, and you complained that they didn't put the ha around it?
Yeah. I mean, I vaguely remember that. That sounds familiar. That sounds like a thing I would complain about.
Yeah, you were like, why doesn't it swirl around him?
Because I love the ha swirl.
And it was there, but it was like a border or like around it. Yeah.
There's a point where there's a door, and between the hinges it says creak, or like squeak, or like something like that. He does really cool stuff with the onomatopoeia, you know, action words. But no,
and I love his Joker.
Oh, his Joker's great. His Joker's absolutely great. He's got the Neil Adamsy long Joker face.
Well, I mean characterization, but yeah, I love the look of it too.
I love his eyes. I love his Joker eyes.
this is
really scary.
You know, there are a lot of versions of the Joker that you'd go back to and you wouldn't. If they wouldn't feel real familiar, but I think that more or less this is kind of still the Joker we're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
much of the time.
Our Joker tends to be less funny than this Joker, but
yeah,
because his plan is hilarious.
But I guess it's great, and I do wish we did more of that. I mean, you could make the argument that Hamill's Joker is just this Joker.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But and this Joker would be like, "You killed Captain Clown," you know, that'd be that Joker. But I guess I just mean like in motivation and psychology. He's very much the I think he's the Joker that a lot of people like the most, where he seems to just do whatever comes to mind, but he's clearly not actually what we think of as insane. Like he's lucid, he's got himself together, but he doesn't have anything holding him back.
Yeah, well,
and he doesn't have any empathy.
Well, we have like a Bob Gunn scene really early on, where someone just goes like, so what are you gonna do now? And then he just pushes him in front of a bus, and he's like, mind your own business.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh yeah. He just pushes him in front of a bus. It's like, mind your own business. I can find it.
Yeah, where is that black comedy in a lot of modern takes of the Joker? Is this just a character that we take too seriously?
I think it is. See there, he asks him like what are you gonna do, boss? And he goes, oh, and by the way, they pushed him in front of a bus.
Oh, that's yeah.
This is mind your own business, and that's great.
Well, and I think that's kind of I mean, you know, this sounds silly because everybody knows what the Joker is, but if you look at this as a good introduction to that character, let's say you're a kid and this is the first time you've read the Joker, unless you're me and you forgot that scene was there,
it's between pages, which is weird. You would think you do that on one page.
You'd be a lot more kind of scared or on pins and needles in the moment when he goes to the copyright clerk. Because you don't know what he's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do in that scene with that guy. The first time you saw him, he pushed a guy in front of a train, and now he's just talking to a guy. And no, like that's got to be really intentional, right? The first time you see him, he immediately kills a guy.
Well, no, that's after.
And then,
that's when they're leaving copyright.
Oh, is that after?
Yeah,
okay. Because I forgot where that was.
Yeah,
like I said, I just missed that scene entirely. But it's but I do love how unpredictable he is. Like I think my point still stands, whether it happens before or after. This is a guy that, if he starts messing with someone, they're probably not going to make it. And it takes 2 days. Yep.
One of the things that...
And they do that in the animated show.
Yeah.
Where he's got the one chemical, and then he added something else. And if Englehart... If one of the things... Because Englehart, as Eric talks about all the time, is notorious for claiming that everything comes from him.
He says 89 is like 90% his run.
I think
this run is 90% this run.
I think the bit about mixing chemicals maybe came from this.
Yeah. And there's something else with mixing chemicals earlier that's not Joker. There's something with Hugo Strange and mixing chemicals or something like that.
Well, and I actually had a question about that.
Okay.
We're jumping all around, but now that you brought it up, may I mention it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the thing with Hugo Strange and chemicals is the way he makes sure that nobody goes to the auction except for the 3 people he's invited. Is that he has them inhale a chemical that doesn't hurt them, but he can detect it somehow. And this comes back at the end.
That's how Batman knows that it's the Joker.
The question is, how did Batman know about that?
I don't know.
Like, it's really clever, but I feel like at the same time as it's asking you to remember something you would have read 3 months earlier, it's also hinging on the fact that it's been 3 months since you've read it.
Yep.
So that was problematic. So am I right? There's no way he would know that.
No, he should not. He should not know that.
Okay.
So
there's some problematic stuff here and there, certainly. Like one thing that's really weird is I thought it was really convenient that I thought it was super convenient that Rupert Thorne picks up Silver St. Cloud, but then it doesn't actually really lead to anything, and he ultimately just drops her off someplace.
It does for her. She's undecided on how she feels about Batman, and him mouthing off about Batman is when she realizes, like, no, Gotham needs Batman.
Yeah, but she could have gotten that from anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird that
the Thorne plot is weird anyways.
It absolutely is, but
because he also like puts out a cease and desist on Batman. And nothing ever comes of that. We're told that, but every time Batman shows up, they're like, "Hey, Batman, we still like you."
it wasn't big. Yeah, like even people. There's one scene, I forget who it is, where he breaks in someplace and this guy's like you shouldn't be here, and I don't agree with the edict, but this is the law apparently, so you should leave.
One of the things Englehart likes to talk about with his run is that his Batman is Batman that has sex.
Yeah, he sure does.
Quite a bit. And that prior to this, Batman doesn't really have any really long-lasting relationships. He doesn't actually seem to, like, be with women. It's just the beard kind of a thing.
Even Julie Madison comes up.
Yeah. At some points, it feels like Englehart's showing off.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I went and read the first 3 years of Batman. I know what's going on.
I'm not sure Wayne isn't showing off too, because he goes in and has those editor notes, and you know, most of the time that's gotta be stuff that obviously Englehart like pulled on purpose. But sometimes I feel like Wayne's going, I know what he did there. I know where he came up with that.
Yeah, there's one that was really intrusive. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I didn't need that footnote. But
there were a couple of those. There's one where the footnote tells you what is in a capsule that Batman pulls out, or something. It's really funny. It's like, oh, by the way, there's not really any place for us to actually give this exposition, so I'll just tell you what Batman is holding right now.
Oh, no, it's the one where Robin throws the smoke gas pellets. That's what it is.
That's what it is?
Yeah, I was like...
Wasn't that funny?
I was like, yeah, I could have gleaned that. He's throwing something on the ground, smoke's coming up.
Yeah, sure.
But, it's interesting to have a Batman who's complicated by a love life.
Yeah.
And where she goes with that, it's all quite rushed at the end, though.
It is.
Like, she seems to have made her decision that she's going to be with Bruce and talk to him about being Batman, and that Batman's important, but because she sees Batman fighting the Joker for 30 seconds, she's like, oh, I realize now I wouldn't be able to live with this.
Well, and, I mean, I could maybe buy that, but it does still feel rushed. I mean, it's hard to put my finger on it.
She should have been dealing with those thoughts already. She should have been involved in more of the Batman
Maybe she
scenes.
just hasn't quite made her mind. Maybe she just shouldn't have quite made up her mind
Well,
yet.
there's thought balloons in here. They should be telling me these things.
No, absolutely. But I'm just saying, I'm not sure. To your point, like I can see her starting to think, oh, maybe this isn't going to work. I don't know that I buy that she definitively lands on it at the end, but I don't know.
There is a sequel story that we'll read at some point. You'll find out what happens when she comes back into Bruce Wayne's life.
You know what I do really like about it, about that scene, though? I like that she refuses to call him Bruce and keeps calling him Batman through that whole scene.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Where it's that distinction of, I thought I could deal with Batman, but I only want Bruce. And then again, the question is, did she ever really know the man?
Yeah.
Because there's a third person and she never met that guy.
Yeah.
But she did.
Yeah, well, that's who she's dating.
Yeah, and no one else knows that guy. And remember, there's that scene where Alfred's like, you know, the thing Bruce is saying to her on the phone isn't what he usually says to women, and maybe this is the one. And
well, and when she comes and talks to Hugo, who is pretending to be Bruce, she immediately knows there's something off about him.
Right.
That's not the guy.
And other people might not pick up on that because he is being the playboy and stuff, except that even the playboy Bruce Wayne wouldn't be like throwing his money around like that. And
this comic in 78.
Also, that's a thing we could have lived with a little bit longer, maybe, if he had had more space. The crux of the story he's telling, like you eliminate a couple villains, could have been told in fewer issues, but the soap opera stuff, I kind of would have liked to have seen played out for a whole year.
Yeah. Interestingly, I love the resolution to what Hugo Strange does as Bruce Wayne with all the money and everything. It's like, well, we left it all on the desk, so everything's all right. Everyone's fine with me just going right back to it. Because no one knows it was Hugo Strange.
Yeah.
That was great. But
that's the thing. He was having some fun with that. I wish we had maybe seen that played out a little bit longer.
I
mean, sometimes that scenario can be irritating. You know, the imposter that's pretending to be the main guy, and I'm glad that he didn't string us along. But it's only like 2 scenes.
My problem with Silver is I don't know who she is.
Right.
I know what she means to Batman, but I don't know who she is as a person. She just seems like she is a like a cardboard cutout of like she's the perfect girlfriend.
Yeah, she does seem a little bit too perfect. I mean, I like the idea that I feel like she is the kind of person that Bruce Wayne would fall for if he fell for someone, in that she's driven and she takes risks and she's real proactive.
And whatever she does for a job, because there's a point where Batman goes, or where Bruce goes, I don't know what you do for, I never knew what you did for a living and I still don't know. She does something with fundraisers.
I thought, okay, you know what, maybe I read the dialogue balloons backwards because I thought he was talking about fundraisers.
No, she's talking about fundraisers, and he's like, oh yeah, I never did figure out exactly what you do.
Are we sure about that?
I mean, that's how I read it.
Because I thought that was... Because it was something about conventions, and I thought Bruce was kind of like using this convention thing as a front for what he actually does with his money.
No, I thought she was holding the convention.
Maybe so. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, you're absolutely right, and it's because they're so far in the background that I wasn't paying close enough attention to where the dialogue balloons were coming from. Yeah. Okay, so she she throws conventions,
and her convention is apparently a tribute to Weisinger, and has a giant typewriter.
Yes, it's almost like Englehart is making fun of himself because he's like, show me your work. I've never been clear on what that is anyway. And
yeah, I got that sense
almost
too.
like maybe he got a letter from someone that's like, so what the heck does Silver St. Cloud do for a living?
I think we can agree Gotham nailed this character.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely did. She was too perfect. Because perfect people can talk to dolphins.
It's true.
Telepathically.
It's true.
That never gets old. Anyway, I don't know I don't know that there was any symbolism or any kind of or anything to the typewriter with Deadshot.
No, I think it's a throwback to the 50s because it says Weisinger background. And I think it's more Weisinger.
But it's just a throwback thing. Like,
yeah, I think that's what
I was trying to come up with something, and I just nothing came to me about like how how a giant typewriter and just writing in general would have any significance to Batman fighting Deadshot.
That's the villain issue. I don't think there's anything really huge
yeah,
there.
I know, but I was looking for something, but I didn't look far enough in that I made up something stupid. Okay, there wasn't anything.
Did you notice what the last line of the book is?
No, you said something about the last line.
Yeah, the last line of the book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a new day. It's a new day in Gotham.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
That's a Gotham thing.
Yep. In the dawning of a new day.
Of a new day.
He is gone.
Yeah. My big takeaway reading this was, oh yeah, that's right. This is Batman. You know.
Yeah.
Like, I just want Batman to feel like this. It's just a costume. And
that's my Batman. That's why
I
think that's why I ended up picking it. Was we'd been talking about like classic Batman and like how Batman hasn't felt like Batman for a while, and like it'd be nice. And so I was like, well, let's do some classic Batman.
It just took me back. Like there was a nostalgia wave, a very specific of a very specific brand that really washed over me as I read this, where there were feelings and impressions from the earliest days where I was getting into Batman and looking at Batman that I haven't felt in a long time, and like I don't know, just I went back to 4 or 5.
One of the things I really appreciate about this, and I mean obviously this is of the time, but there's some dark, serious psychological implications. Bruce Wayne is sleeping with Silver St. Cloud.
Ryan,
a kid could read this. You could give this to Jason.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I know, I love that. And I mean, it is gritty street level, crime drama stuff.
And the Joker does some really scary stuff. There's some really scary pictures, shots of him.
Yeah.
There's a way he draws his eyes that's just taunting.
But I feel like most of it, especially in this day and age, with as desensitized as a lot of us end up being anyway, I feel like, you give this to a 6 or 7 year old kid, and it's kind of a stepping stone to get them ready for, like, rougher things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, kids that don't want to read kid stuff, like, this is the era I'd go back to.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like kid stuff.
No.
But you wouldn't be afraid that you would emotionally scar your children handing it to them. Man, I was reading this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was too.
A kid.
Well, I was reading Nightfall, but
it's this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's exactly this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. What else did you want to say about it?
I think it's classic Batman. I think as time goes on, it's getting more and more forgotten. Everything except the laughing fish.
Yeah, which is sad.
But I think it's really good quality Batman stuff. I think people should go back and read it. Unfortunately, it is not well collected.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even have it here if it weren't for the fact that one guy drew 6 issues of it.
This is out of print, I believe, because all their Legends of Dark Knight don't stay in print, and this doesn't collect the first 2 issues. Strange Apparitions has been out of print for about a decade. There's no good way to get this whole story.
That's unfortunate.
So...
That needs to be a thing that circulates.
Yeah, it should just constantly be in print.
And also, I would make a case that there's a lot of like really other seminal Batman things that people bring up all the time that wouldn't be what they are or look like what they look like if it weren't for this. Like, you don't have Killing Joke without this Joker.
Yeah.
I was feeling Killing Joke all the way through this.
Yeah, no, this is a really important. This and Five-Way Revenge are kind of cited as the two. Like, that's where modern Joker comes from, is those two stories. It's
kind of a crime that this wasn't recollected when that movie came out.
Yeah.
That's what we should have done.
Yeah.
You know, in hindsight.
Now, to be fair, the Laughing Fish issues have been collected a number of times. It's in the Greatest Joker Stories Ever Told. I think it might even be in the Greatest Batman Stories Ever Told. Those
but I hate that
because
it's not complete. Like when you read the St. Cloud stuff in that part, you just
which is a lot of it.
Yeah, it's too much of it.
Yeah. So
it's most of that first issue or second, one of those issues.
If people can track this down either online or they somehow have the Strange Apparitions trade, things like that, I think people should read this. It's really, it's quintessential Batman.
So are those 8 issues all Englehart did?
He does like a 3-issue thing in Legends of Dark Knight. He does something else, and then he comes back and they do the sequel, where it's him and Marshall Rogers again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which we'll read at some point because it's insane.
Is it not good?
I like it.
Okay.
But what they do with
Two-Face... Or is that not
Two-Face,
the right word for it?
What they do with Two-Face is insane. But I think it's quite good. It's like no time has passed.
It is possible I've read it and I don't know that I've read it. But we do that a lot, right? With especially for people from this era when they come back a lot of years later.
No. I mean, writing-wise, it feels like this could have been that could have been published the next year.
No, I know, but that is still what I'm saying. I mean, like Claremont likes to do that when it goes to X-Men. Like, no, this is a thing we do. I don't just mean in the style. I mean, it's like I don't care about anything else that has happened.
Yep.
In my mind, there is no more Batman continuity except for what came before me.
But at some point we'll read that. But
yeah,
that's the only time they get back together. But Englehart wrote a couple of different things here and there. He claims he wrote a I think it's Mad Hatter story that the editor said was the best Batman story he'd read in 2 decades, and it got put in a drawer and it was never published.
Yeah, I mean, he does go too far in acting like
it's
everything
important.
goes to... It is important.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that...
And it's good!
He writes
it's really
good, important work, but he thinks it's even more important than it is, which is nuts, because it is important.
And it's not just his Batman work. He does this with other things.
Yeah, he does this. He does this with everything he's ever written, except for Star-Lord. He's in check on Star-Lord.
Okay.
Because he's the creator of Star-Lord.
I didn't know that.
But he does not claim responsibility for the fandom of that character.
Well, that's good, because that would be...
Also, does not claim responsibility for a Silver St. Cloud in Gotham. Everything that's ever been done... Everything that's ever been done with Batman is like 85%... Like, he says Dark Knight is 85% his work, just like 89 is. Both of those are 85% based on his material. In Gotham, he has, if you go to his website, he has one line where it's like, it seems like they based a character, or they have a character named Silver St. Cloud, name only. Even he won't take credit for that character.
That's pretty funny. But like he's and I realize this comes from a really egotistical place, but in a way he's almost not giving himself and his work enough credit, because you can get to Dark Knight without ever reading this because it influenced everything else so much. So I mean, like that's like it seems like you'd want to appreciate that that's going on.
And while I don't believe
instead of superficially saying everything you just went back to my words, like, no, it was so influential people don't even know about it anymore.
While I don't believe at all
it's just there in the zeitgeist.
The 89 is 85% this, or based on this run, or anything like that. It is inspired by it.
Certainly.
Even if not directly.
It doesn't know it.
Yes. Yeah. But the idea that the 89 is this story, but Silver St. Cloud has changed to Vicky Vale, and Thorne has changed to Grissom, like, no.
No, I don't
But it is important, and you should read it.
No, Grissom is every Batman crime boss there's ever been. Like, he's not
and Thorne isn't even a crime boss. He's part of the city council.
That's right.
President of the city council.
Yeah. Anyway, well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it, and we will do more Englehart stuff sometime down the road, I am sure. Yep. The next thing we're gonna do with Eric and I together on the Vault is we're gonna finally get back to Superman. We're
gonna finish the Superman Origins.
Yeah, we were doing Superman Origins. We were gonna do 4. We've done 2, so we'll come back and do the other half. Yep. So we got Birthright to do, or were there 5? Maybe there were 5.
There were 5 because we have Birthright, Secret Origin, and then American Alien.
American Alien, right. Yep. I'm missing 1 issue of that. I gotta get that. But anyway, folks, thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Happy reading, folks.